Hello and a warm welcome to Federal Special Program Capital Beat. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reflected on the enduring legacy of the Somnath Temple, saying that its survival and revival over the past 1,000 years stands as a testament to India's resilience. In a blog marking a millennium since the first attack on the shrine in 1026 AD, Prime Minister described Somnath as a timeless symbol of the nation's civilizational and spiritual strength, rising again despite repeated attempts to destroy it. Now, the timing of the blog coincided with the top court's refusal to grant bail to Khalid and Imam, the two accused in the 2020 Delhi riots, whose continued incarceration has drawn international attention. Modi in this blog has also criticized Prime Minister Nehru as well. Now, what does this Jai Somnath moment mean for Prime Minister Modi and for the BJP? We'll try and understand all of this. Joining me this evening is Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, author and senior journalist. Thank you so much, Nilanjan, for joining. We have TK Rajlakshmi, deputy editor of the Frontline magazine. Thank you so much for joining. And I'll begin with Nilanjan. Nilanjan, you must have read the blog which Prime Minister Modi wrote on 1,000 years of the Somnath Temple. He's spoken about the civilizational resilience, but he took pot shots at Jawaharlal Nehru as well. Then he spoke about the invaders and how he's given a dominance to the faith of the people. Now, how will you decode this Jai Somnath moment of Prime Minister Modi?
Well, as far as taking pot shots at Nehru is concerned, when is Prime Minister Narendra Modi not taking pot shots at Nehru? It has been a continuing thing, even before from 2014. That has been a running agenda and it continues like that. And including not just in the context of Somnath, the attack is not just on Nehru, but also on, various historians, very eminent globally reputed historians also, and saying that they are trying to change the history that they have provided, a distorted history of Somnath Temple. But Mr. Modi also uses history for his own purpose, and at times even distorts same things. There was one particular, aspect which I found, which I should point out. He is talking about Ahilyabai Holkar in the late 18th century, that she, rebuilt the temple. The word is actually that rebuilt and rejuvenated the temple. The fact of the matter is that Ahilyabai Holkar did build a temple, but not rebuild that temple, but she built a small temple close by. Now, this conveys two things. One, that rebuilding the Somnath temple in the time of Ahilyabai Holkar had not become a sentiment of religious nationalism at that time. Also, that there was no collective effort to try to pull in more resources to rebuild that, because that would obviously cost more than a small temple which was later on built. So it's these kind of distortions that one do, and also I find it extremely, peculiar for the prime minister to be getting into these historical matters. This is, after all, not his terrain. He'd rather, I would rather that person continues to govern and look at the problems which are, facing the government and the country, the people. Look at issues which are pending, whether sorting out the ties with the United States of America or various other nations. I do not want to prepare a list, but coming very close on the heels of the Vande Mataram, 100 years being celebrated by the government. So it just means that this government is essentially moving from one event to another to keep people's attention focused on other issues, not on issues which can possibly get them angry with the government for not delivering on the promises made. So I think it is at one level a very collective, very smart tactics from the political perspective, but as far as the people and the nation is concerned, I think that it is highly improper.
But Nilanjan, I would also want to ask you the way BJP held press conferences and the way the BJP spokespersons responded after the blog was released. And now, say, for example, Sudhanshu Trivedi and Shahzad Poonawala, they were fielded as the BJP spokespersons who spoke about the M factor. And they were saying that the opposition is fixated on the M factor. And Sudhanshu Trivedi, if I may recall, he said that M factor refers to the Macaulay factor of the 19th century and the Marx factor of the 20th century. He, however, also added that he had full faith in the intellect of the individual, in the intellect of the journalists who were interpreting something else. Then Shahzad Poonawala also talks about how the 2020 Delhi riots, and he described it as anti-Hindu massacres during the Mughal period. So they both try and link the two. Now, do you see some sort of a connection? And is this like a strategic design which is planned very well? That Prime Minister Modi will release a blog, and thereafter the BJP spokespersons will talk in different ways to consolidate and emphasize on that agenda.
Of course, there is. There is. When has not the BJP actually, tried to, present something that has been done by Mr. Modi in a very positive and in a very dynamic way. The idea is to further the cult of Mr. Modi at every level. So here also, written a blog which would possibly, in all probability, would have been written by somebody else and released in his name. Just say, that is actually such a super piece of writing. It makes very valid points. But if you actually look at it purely in terms as an editor, if you look at it in terms of an article which has been presented, it is nothing really very substantial. It uses very flowery language, try to make an emotional impact on people, to try to stir up the of a Hindu consciousness. And I would say that as a prime minister, being such an exclusivist piece of writing, I think that it is highly unfair, and which just about reveals the completely a majoritarian mindset with which Mr. Modi works.
Right. Okay. I'll come to you, Rajlakshmi, now. Then, how would you see this moment where he's written a blog? And as Nilanjan pointed out, that that's really not his job to point out at the history and talk about the civilizational resilience. But since the prime minister is doing it, and even the party is doing it with a proper plan and a methodology as to who's going to say what does it go to show? And what is the kind of message without later about what is the general message about celebrating the millennium of the Somnath Temple, and also at the same time talking about Mahmud of Ghazni, the invaders. So what is the message really, according to you, the political message?
Well, I would have been pleasantly surprised. I mean, had he spoken about the third M, uh, that is, the dislodging of the Venezuelan president Maduro. Okay, while I mean Marx and other M's are very significant, but
Yeah.
this M doesn't seem to be attracting his attention, or attracting the government's attention in any form, either in the form of a detailed blog, or in the form of a detailed statement condemning the kidnapping of an elected president of a sovereign nation. So I'm quite surprised that, and so I'm not surprised otherwise in that sense, because this is been the standard playbook, and of course, the fact that the central government doesn't have anything to say on such an important international development, but rather chooses to, in fact, the highest authority, represents the central government today, the prime minister, harks back to an event that happened, in medieval times, and sort of writes an exhaustive blog, as if that is the most challenging aspect that faces Indians today. Shows us sense of complete misplaced priorities, of course, I mean, at one level, and at the other level, it is basically underscoring their politics of divisive ideology, and to just hark back to those invaders came during the medieval times, as if they have been as if there was no other contribution of any sort that happened in that period, or in fact the kind of of course marauding that the colonialists did subsequently. So also all history and everything begins at that point, you know and the fact, I mean, so it's not really surprising, Nilu, and I you know, perhaps this is to deflect attention from the fact that that India, which claims to be a Vishwaguru, which claims to be a founding brick of the BRICS coalition, which is also one of the leaders of the global South, has been unable to take a strong position on what has happened in Venezuela today, when so many smaller countries have protested against it, including its own BRICS partners, within the BRICS coalition. So I have a feeling, I mean, I may be wrong, but I have a feeling that this is somewhere, to deflect attention, to deflect, media attention also. Of course, we have, the pliable media amongst us, which would, in fact, very happily, expand on this, in fact, write a lot on this, and maybe, in fact, give a lot of coverage on this, and at the same time, obfuscate the Indian stand, or what the Indian stand should have been in the context of what's happening internationally. It's a shame, actually, Nilu. I don't know whether you've
You
had
see this blog, you purely see this blog as some kind of a diversionary tactic so that the party and Prime Minister himself don't have to answer too much on that. You see it as a
Yeah,
diversion.
I do see it, coming, because it comes out of context. Actually, there are no in Gujarat elections in the offing. Yes, there are elections in other states where the BJP has sort of tried, to polarize, the voters, whether it's through SIR, or whether it's through the Bangladeshi infiltration element, or and we've seen a series of hate crimes against minorities in this country, and including people from the northeast also. So it's not stopping. The spiral of hate crimes is not stopping. I would rather that his blog would have expressed some concern about what's happening in the country today, and it is just another attempt to just sort of whip up irrational sentiments, narrow sentiments, in fact,
Right.
bigoted sentiments rather. So
Right.
it's sad. I mean, it's really unfortunate that a man of his I won't say stature, but occupying that kind of a position should sort of utilize, whether he's written it or whether it's been ghost written one, doesn't know, but it's gone in under his name. So
Yes.
so invoking this is completely irrelevant in today's times.
Right.
Huh? It's
Okay.
like
So
सिकंदर ने पोरस से की थी लड़ाई तो मैं क्या करूं, it's over, and done and dusted with. Let's move on.
right.
This is 21st century.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, I'll just pick on from where you said that, this blog is trying to rake up irrelevant and irrational sentiment. I'll come to Nilanjan. That Nilanjan, what do you think is the end goal of Prime Minister Modi through this blog? What is he? Which is the audience? I mean, is it the audience, the political audience in West Bengal? Is it the political audience in Gujarat and Uttar Pradesh? Ultimately, whatever Prime Minister says, whenever he gives a speech or he writes something, he ensures that it has a political message. Now, what is the political message? If elections are the prism through which we look at this blog, so who do you think, where is he targeting at?
Starting with 1986, it is about more than 40 years, since the BJP has actually tried to communalize Indian society, to give a majoritarian turn to politics. It has essentially done this. It initially did it with the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. Thereafter, in the 90s, there was a bit of a lull because the BJP felt that majoritarian politics and divisive agenda is not going to work. They did not have a majority of their own. So the three most contentious issues during the Vajpayee government were kept in the back seat. Article 370 to be, abrogated, Ram Mandir to be built, and the Uniform Civil Code. That conversation they were put in the back seat. We did not hear about it any one time. But if at that point, I do remember, many of us asked Professor Rajendra Singh, or Raju Bhaiya as he was popularly called, who was the Sarsang Chalak of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangha at that particular time, that has the BJP abandoned these ideas? He said, no, it is like this, when you have flu, so you have to have medicines and you don't do a certain set of things. So we can say that there is a kind of a flu on the BJP, and he laughed, and said that once they are better, which means that they have more numbers, they would be actually coming back to the agenda. And that is what actually happened post 2002. You have to note that a large section of the BJP, including Mr. Vajpayee, felt that the defeat in 2004 was primarily because of the Gujarat riots. Yet Mr. Modi was very steadfast on his Hindutva platform and agenda. That is what was seen. So he has actually, right from the time being prime minister, or even before when he was chief minister, essentially this widening the schism which is there in society has been widened, so that you can actually present India more and more as a Hindu country, as a civilizational goal. And then the others are there, but they have to live on our terms and conditions. That is what is being said very correctly at the moment. At the moment, uh, saying that Somnath Temple is actually the symbol of Indian civilization. It is a very important part of our cultural tradition, our heritage. There is no doubt about it. But we must also say at the same time that there are other communities also who also have very important legacies, and they are also part of our
Nilanjan, if you
culture.
talk about right, but if you talk about the Hindutva politics, and which is like becoming more and more brazen now in BJP's grammar, do you think that this is another upscaling of that Hindutva politics when Prime Minister Modi talks about 1,000 years of Somnath Temple? Does it really take forward this Hindutva politics?
Of course, it does. It further, you have to also connect the dots that what else is happening. You also have a simultaneously a situation arising in cricket, on the cricket field. The entire episode of KKR, of having a Bangladeshi
Yeah.
player being dropped, Bangladesh again responding in the manner in which they have done, that we are not going to allow any IPL matches to be telecast in Bangladesh, and we do not want to play any matches in India. So the end product is that it is going to further consolidate the majority community, the Hindus, behind the BJP. That is the entire effort. So Bangladesh has now been put on the same plate as Pakistan, even though the nature of disruptions coming from Pakistan is markedly different and much more, aggressive and hostile than what has come in the past from Bangladesh, or what may come in future. But nonetheless, this is actually one by one, they're just about, bolstering the majoritarian idea. That is the biggest purpose, to push the Hindu Muslim divide further, alienate Muslims more, and let the Hindus feel that the government may be failing on several fronts. Maybe they are not able to provide us with a salary at the end of the month. Maybe they are not able to bring down prices. And you can draw out various things which they can say not happening, which should have happened by now, but at least they are sorting out the Muslims. So, sorting out the Muslims has become the national preoccupation, and that Mr. Modi and the BJP has very successfully been able to convey to the people in the last 11, 12 years.
I also want to come to that paragraph where Prime Minister Modi has made a special mention about Nehru. And as Nilanjan pointed out, that this is not the first time where Prime Minister Modi has indulged in Nehru bashing. But I specifically want to read out that portion, what he says. And I'll read that entire paragraph and then come to you, Raj Lakshmi, that the sacred duty of rebuilding the Somnath temple after independence came to the able hands of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. A visit during Diwali time in 1947 moved him so much that he announced that the temple will be rebuilt there. Finally, on May 11th, 1951, a grand temple in Somnath opened its doors to devotees, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad was present there. Now, the great Sardar Sahib was not alive to see this historic day, but the fulfillment of his dream stood tall before the nation. The then Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was not too enthused with this development. He did not want the Honorable President as well as ministers to associate with this special event. He said that this event created a bad impression of India. But Dr. Rajendra Prasad stood firm, and the rest is history. No mention of Somnath is complete without recalling the efforts of K.M. Munshi, who supported Sardar Patel very effectively. His works on Somnath, including the book Somnatha, the Shrine Eternal, are extremely informative and educative. So he's listed the whole background, but at the same time says Nehru wasn't enthused at all about the Somnath temple. So again, putting Congress on the back foot. Now again, Congress will come with clarification, which I haven't read anywhere, whether Congress has actually responded on this. Maybe I've missed it. But how do you make of this paragraph? I'll also ask Nilanjan to later on comment on this. Yes, Rajlakshmi.
Well, I don't know whether he's quoting from actual archival sources that Nehru was not, interested as such,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that or that it's a part, of recorded history, right? And who recorded that history is also an interesting thing to inquire. That I think historians would be more, capable of throwing some light on that. But obviously this is all, interpretational, right? This is all interpretational. It's not that the Congress did anything, or any other party did anything, to sort of damage any Hindu structure or any Hindu temple. I mean, compared to what we saw, what happened, with, the Babri Masjid, right? So I'll hold, that as a comparison, if at all. I mean, here we all know how, I mean, how it is orchestrated, the whole movement to sort of bring down the Babri Masjid, and then the whole caricaturing, of, the minority community started. Now, so I'm saying that history which comes out from the mouths, of BJP leaders, even if it's the most tallest among them today, has to be taken with a huge sack of salt. It's because I think distorting history is one of their pet agendas. And as Nilanjan said, the ultimate idea is to sort of present to the world that we are a Hindu nation, and that the efforts of the RSS and the BJP are, I think pretty much clear on that score, because they're not going to stop short of their Hindutva agenda. So that's why this keeps on cropping up, in one form or the other, whether it's again, putting words where they did not exist, probably, where those words were not have been spoken. They can just say it as if it was, the gospel truth. And I think historians will continue, to deny it. But then it actually cuts no ice, because it's more popular now, to attack the Congress, and to show it, as well as the opposition, as if they are anti-Hindu, and that the only Hindu party is, the BJP, which sort of protects its interests. So all this comes under, in that framework, Nilu. So it's not that they're going to adhere to historical fact. They might even sort of misquote Patel, they misquote Munshi, even probably they would misquote even their own historians probably. So I mean, I'm not so sure about what actually transpired. Which historical source is he quoting from? I mean, I would quite sort of look forward to that. Let it be out in the open, which historical source it is. And as I said, it is sort of testimony to the fact that all these temples exist. They have been sort of patronized by every government in sort of power. I mean, let's say, in Gujarat at least. And it's not that the effectivity or the importance, of Somnath has, diminished over the years, and because of the Congress, or that it's been sort of elevated. Yes, it's been used as a political tool by, of course, Advani first, and subsequently by all his political successors in that sense. So of course, Mahmud of Ghazni becomes, an icon of barbarity, you see, as compared to Akbar. So the whole thing, good Muslim, bad Muslim, So also all these things are fit in, but as I said, it's archaic. And and why should the BJP go on harking on it, unless, because it's obvious it's not been able to talk about and address other things that actually sort of face the nation, the real challenges
Yeah,
in front of the country. But
yeah,
on the other hand, it also serves it, to fulfill its objective of
right.
forming Hindu Rashtra, which is very much on their agenda. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's quite evident now, and I'll come to the last paragraph and also the concluding comments to you, Nilanjan. That in the last paragraph he writes that the Somnath Temple, which was attacked 1,000 years ago and faced continuous attacks thereon, could rise again and again. Then we can surely restore our great nation to the glory it embodied 1,000 years ago before the invasions. With the blessings of Sri Somnath Mahadev, we move forward with a renewed resolve to build a Viksit Bharat where civilizational wisdom guides us to work for the welfare of the whole world. And then towards the end, he writes, Jai Somnath. Now, I would really want you to summarize it towards the end of the program that is this really going to help BJP in consolidating its support for the Hindus and projecting Muslims as a barbaric community which needs to be almost ostracized? Though they will not use this word, they will not say it, but in every action will seemingly try to ostracize and excommunicate the Muslims.
Excommunicate, isolate them, make them electorally irrelevant, which has already happened in large parts of the country. All that has happened already in the last 11 years, and there are no doubts about it. But before commenting on this, you have to also see that Mr. Modi has very selectively used history. It is true that Sardar Patel got very emotional when he went to Somnath in September 1947 and made a promise that we will rebuild this temple. But it is Mr. Modi very conveniently leaves out the fact that it is Gandhi who says that okay, reconstruct the temple, but the government will not be connected with it. After that, at Gandhi's insistence, a trust is formed, and then the trust seeks funds from public. That is how the reconstruction of the temple Somnath Temple was done. It was completely rebuilt by public money from the people of this country, not from the government. When Nehru wrote the letter to Dr. Rajendra Prasad, he said that you should not go there as the president of India. Let not the Indian state represent, be present there at the inauguration or the opening of the temple at that point. That was the basic point. Nehru was not in any way opposed to the reconstruction per se, but what he was very clear is that the state must be very fair and not, uh, you know, provide funding because it is essentially of just one religious community. That way, we should also, promise to undertake to repair and restore all religious places of India. In that case, the biggest knot would be that how will we actually resolve the issue of the Buddhist shrines and temples which were actually destroyed at the
Yeah,
time when Hindu order, the temple culture became dominant through the early centuries of the medieval era. Even Ayodhya, for instance, in the 7th century, Chinese pilgrims who came, they talk about Ayodhya having a fair amount of what they said Buddhist devpalas. Buddhist remnants were found even later on, and the Supreme Court was hearing the Ayodhya case. At the last moment, prominent Buddhist groups tried to enlist themselves as a party, but their plea was turned down. But it is quite possible that at some point in history, a very militant Buddhist movement may take shape just the way the Ram Temple Ayodhya agitation took place. So, in that case, what are we going to do? Are we going to then start demolishing the temples and rebuild the Buddhist shrines? So, the Places of Worship Act very well put it that 1947, August 15th, 1947, is the cutoff date. Status of all places of worship shall remain what it was at that particular time. The BJP opposed it then, the BJP is opposing it now, and would very well like the Supreme Court to actually say that it is violative of the Constitution of India. We have seen what the Constitution, what the Supreme Court has, come up with rulings which are very fundamentally very difficult to accept and would be challenged, I'm sure. So that is where we are standing at the moment, and that is how the politics has gone on.
Right. So, well, let's see how and to what scale do blogs like these resonate with the people, and how much BJP is really going to consolidate the Hindu voters on the basis of this kind of a politics. We'll have to end it here. Thank you so much,
Thank
Lanjan
you.
and Rajlakshmi. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.